You're watching Teng Tools Muscle Garage, the home of New Zealand's toughest muscle cars, hot rods and street machines. Muscle Garage is proudly brought to you by Teng Tools in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Niedercar. Coming up, we hit Mount Maunganui for the Bay of Plenty Mustang Owners Club's massive All-USA Day. And for Get Gold, we go treasure hunting for early Ford parts at Ajay's just out of Waihi. But it's the Maguire's crew getting us underway. This week, they sent us to check out the mild custom 58 Chev twins belonging to Aaron Tucker.
I have a family that have always been into cars, race cars, vintage cars, you name it, rotaries, just everything. Of course, I just came along for the ride. It was always fun to go and do these things with my family.
And it was family who would introduce Aaron to Chevrolet's 1958 vintage.
I love the double lights. Coming down the road there, to me there's just nothing that Lupin looks like it. It's just something about them, the big bumpers, the low backs, and just getting that right stance with them. You know, they hold a really good stance when they sit low. Just fell in love with them, really. Which was funny because as a kid, I was more and had more models of 57s, 56, 55 like everyone else. And it wasn't until I actually got to drive the 58 and just fell in love with it.
The Biscayne was unearthed in San Francisco by Aaron's uncle and had already been on the receiving end of a fair bit of attention from well-known Cali customizer Scotty Chops. Once in Aaron's possession, a scalloped and satin finish was at the top of his list, to be complemented by tuck and roll trim, plus the all-important altitude adjustment by way of a full air install. But hey, if one is good, the sedan was a late-night chance find on Trade Me. Advertised as a parts car and stashed in a teakwitty barn, Aaron thought it would look better as a slow-burn build in his own shed. But
we came to Christmas, probably nearly 3 months out from Beach Hop, and my brother announced he was coming back with his wife. It gave me a whole lot of motivation to get the car done so that they had a car for Beach Hop. Pretty much 3 months of non-stop working on the car to have it done, and to have it done in a pretty good level. But even after Beach Hop, I came back off the road and just all those little bits got tidied back up that just got too rushed towards the end. It was a rush, but it was fun. It was a fun journey.
both 58s could be filed under the banner of a mild custom, where heavy bodywork, a roof chop for example, would push them into full custom territory. Aaron opted for less dramatic panel mods and let a combination of paint, stance and wheels do the talking instead. And when it came to build number 2, it wasn't just going to be a carbon copy.
Yeah, I didn't want them exactly the same. I wanted them to have slight differences. And it is different. It's 4 doors. It seems longer in the body, but it's just got shorter doors. So I wanted longer scallops on it and just a slightly different style to what we've done. Having the 2 of them has just opened up a whole nother sort of level of their look, having them together.
Same but different then. Both Chevs weigh in at 283 cubes. The Biscayne is backed by a 3-speed and uses bags to reach new lows, whereas the sedan shifts via a turbo 350 trans and sits static on drop spindles and springs. Both feature scallops courtesy of family friend Ian Ellis. Another great thing about keeping things relatively simple, it's more accessible to the next wave of hot rodders. Nowadays that barn find 32 sure isn't, and there's not too many young guys or girls who can wander into a rod shop and drop $250,000 on a top shelf street rod.
It just gives a whole lot of appeal without really spending big money, to be honest. I think it is something more young people should be getting into, or could be getting into. There is I suppose a stigma around the older generation, and they sometimes are very set in their ways of how things were done or how you should do things. Once you get them to open up and things like that, they're not as scary as they seem. And I think the only thing that Even the older generation need to realise is these guys need to come start somewhere, and they haven't got the big budgets that some of them have. So if they're starting in HQs, Rotaries, even your Nissans and things that some of the younger generation are getting into today, it's a passion too. And they are hot rodding. They are doing the things that they did as kids themselves, just on a different level, and they're starting. So the more that we can get them involved, the more that hot rodding is going to live on. We don't want the sport to die off. We want to keep it going and keep those stories going for generation. I just want to give it a go. You know, end of the day, it's only a stuff up if you can't fix it. And you're never going to learn if you don't. So I just want to just give it a go and see where it goes. That is the fun in it. The fun is the build. Getting to be able to drive it and use it at the end is like the icing on the cake, but the fun part should be the build.
Moving right along now, and thanks to our mates at Nidaka, we're off to the All USA Day, where wings and wheels mix at Mount Mauganui's Classic Flyers Museum.
The event's run by the Bay of Plenty Mustang Club. We're a club that's been going for about 15 years now, and we've run this event every year since, barring any disasters with weather. It's all about just giving the local people a chance to appreciate American cars, not just Mustangs, but all American cars in general. And alongside of that, we also try to raise money for local charities. Our charity of choice this year is Tauranga Assistance Dogs. So the money does stay local, and that gives that charity a chance to get exposure to the general public of Tauranga.
Did it what? The Bay of Plenty public turned up en masse, which must have been quite a relief for the hosts, as this is what greeted arriving entrants just a little earlier. But they're a hardy lot, these car people, and despite the damp, the huge range of vehicles included plenty of elite-level examples, from thoroughly fettled classics all the way up to cutting-edge modern muscle.
The cars are actually hand-built in the Michigan Flat Rock assembly plant, which is a subdivision of the Ford Motor Company up in Flat Rock in Michigan, and they take them off the assembly line and they take them to the Ford Performance Factory and then basically strip the cars down again and then rebuild them in the specification. This particular car of mine has been spec'd up as an FP350S race car, but road-going model, so all of the running gear from an FP350S has been put into the R body and basically homologated for the road. So the car is based on the 5.2 litre flat plane crank Voodoo engine. It's running 759 horsepower at the rear wheels. It has a 6-speed transmission with straight cut gears, so slightly different to the production Tremec box which comes out of the GT350R. The wheels on the vehicle are carbon fibre, made by a company in Australia called Carbon Revolution, exclusively for Ford Performance. My car is not what a lot of people might think. It is not a trailer queen. I believe that performance cars are made to be driven, and driven well, you might say. A lot of people in the United States actually do not drive their R's on the road. They consider that they are a full track-ready car and all they want to do is go to track days. Whereas out here in New Zealand, I guess, with our allegiances to our various Mustang clubs around the country, we like to be with our club members. It's like when you go into an ice cream parlour, there are many, many flavours of ice cream and there are many flavours of Mustang. And I like all flavours of ice cream, so therefore, by default, I must like all Mustangs.
We've talked up variety, and, well, contrasts don't get more stark than this. It may also be a Ford, well, mostly, but it would be fair to say Graham was going for a bit of a different approach.
It's a rat rod. It's running a 350 Chev, full bolt mains one. I have a 69 RS SS Camaro with a Muncie gearbox because I always wanted a manual, and AU Falcon running in the back, and just the combination is really good. Yeah, just something a wee bit different. All started from one of my co-workers building a model and of a rat rod that he'd seen on TV and magazines, and thought, well, this is really cool, I want to build one. So I was in Auckland, and one day and a friend rang me and said, hey, there's a Tudor body sitting up there for sale, why don't you go and have a look? And I did, and yeah, paid the money and brought it home, and yeah, sort of started from there. So it was a short build, I consider short, from a scratch build from nothing at all, 16 months roughly to build the whole car. It's just a lot of fun, yeah.
While on the outside the fit and finish is intentionally a little more primitive than that of the cars around it, this is a road legal car, so it's what's on the inside or underneath that counts.
When you put your car through certification from a scratch build, it's the rules and regulations we have are really good and very well written. So if you read the rules and go through it all, you'll build a car and it'll go through cert, and you can drive it around as much as you like. So just like any other car, yeah. Might not look it, but it's actually very comfy. Yeah, I've done some long drives on it, and very comfy. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It just doesn't look comfy.
Amazing results, even at full sight.
You're back with Teng Tools Muscle Garage, proudly brought to you by Teng Tools, in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Niedercar. Summer in New Zealand is open day season, with many of our favourite workshops throwing open the doors, cranking up the barbie and hosting a mini car show in their backyard. We checked out a fresh new shop, Bad Penny Classic and Custom Services, earlier in the series, and despite being the new kids on the block, they weren't going to mess around, getting in nice and early with a November afternoon do. While the Bad Penny workshop caters for all old stuff, they do have a penchant for low and slow. This was reflected in the customers and friends who came to join them on the day, the car park sporting a number of lowriders and bombs among the more traditional suspects. Open days like this, of course, are about showing off your work, and the guys clearly had been keeping busy. Simon's 37 Chev bomb was tracking nicely, while this 54 Chev now hangs a very period supercharger off the side of its straight six. The Corvair? New floors are in and the little Chev is now complied and ready for summer cruising. And judging by the rest of the shop floor, there's plenty to keep the boys entertained until their next open day in 2018. Right, time to head back to the Bay of Plenty Mustang Owners Club's massive All-USA Day now, set to the cool backdrop of Mount Mauganui's Classic Flyers Museum.
Oh, there's just about everything you could imagine. We're getting a lot more hot rods and a lot more modified street cruisers, all that sort of thing. Of course, we also get a massive turnout of Mustangs, which just with our members, we probably have 30 to 40 cars turn up, and then we get the Waikato Mustang Club turn up as well with 20 or 30 cars. So massive range. We're like most car fanatics. We like all types of cars, and specifically American cars. Our aim is to have as many different types of cars as possible.
Well, you can tick that box, and there sure was plenty for everyone. And with the Classic Flyers location, you had the option of wheels and wings. Fittingly, a highlight for many was a Mustang, however, an elite-level, all-steel 67 Super Snake owned by Kelvin Taylor and expertly pieced together by the team at Matamata Panelworks. One of the car's most recent outings was a pretty grand affair, the massive stage that is Maguire's Motor X in Sydney. But hey, when in New Zealand?
When Kelvin first came to us about the car, he said, he didn't really want a show car. He wanted a car that he can get out and drive and enjoy, and that's exactly what it's today. They drove up from Napier yesterday and went through to a place in Te Araha, stayed the night at Matamata and came over in the rain today and didn't even blink an eye that it was raining. But the whole car was built around to be driven. Yeah, fair enough. We took it to a show, took it to a pretty good big show, and just to see how it went there. And yeah, here it is here today, all dirty and grimy, but a bit of a wash. It all comes off, doesn't it? Started off as a 67 fastback, brought it in from America, and we basically turned into an all-steel Eleanor. Was the second one we've done. This particular one's running a 427 Roush with nitrous. It's got a TKO 600 gearbox behind it, and that combination goes well together. And we've got the RRS full-on suspension in there. So when you're talking about driving and enjoying the car, it's comfortable to drive, and you know, that makes it enjoyable on the road. And when you really want to put your foot down, it's there as well.
If you tuned in a couple of weeks back, you'll remember the first one, Fraser McKenzie's 67 Fastback, the car that kicked off Matamata Panelworks all-steel Eleanor builds. While the cars do share obvious similarities, each is a reflection of the owner's tastes, and naturally for Malcolm and his team, a chance to fine-tune and further raise the bar.
It's a huge challenge, but we seem to do it. Unfortunately, the last car that we build, we're trying to pick it to build one better, and you know, the owners of the car say, "Oh, this is the best car you've ever done." Well, we try to make one better every time, so it's a little bit hard and embarrassing sometimes that way, but yeah, any owner of a car, they know where the faults are, and you try to, you know, improve it each time. So yeah, we try to. We've got one on the build now, which will probably beat this one again.
The All USA Day wrapped up with prize giving, and there were plenty of awards up for grabs here. People's Choice is always a neat one to land, and this year that honour went to Claire Bailey's C1 Corvette. Keep a lookout for the All USA Day when it returns in 2018. Okay, next up, thanks to Mount Chop, it's shed raid time. This week, we're headed for the hills of Waihi to check out Ajay's Ford V8 parts, owned by Brian and Liz Smith.
Just outside of Waihi, and beautiful spot. Yeah, we're awesome weather just about all year round, and we're on our own property, so we can do what we want. We make as much noise as we want and pull cars to pieces and do burnouts and all that naughty stuff. Love of cars more than anything. I'm not staunch Ford, and I'm not staunch any brand. It's just all early tin, and yeah, quite like the whole lot. Dad was a panel beater, so I've sort of been brought up around cars my whole life, but yeah, I decided that I wanted to be a chef to start with, and went from being a chef for 7 years to being a dairy farmer after that, and then yeah, from dairy farmer to what we're doing now. Yeah, so like the song, nobody knows what they really want to do in their life, and I've had 3 career changes now, so yeah, life's not finished yet. So
The Ajay's name has been around for a long time. Originally established by Arthur Lee out of Auckland in '74, a couple of decades back the business would shift to Katikati, and with it, a change of hands, before Brian, Liz and their team entered the frame 7 years ago. Now running the show here, a stone's throw from Waihi. What hasn't changed though is a lot of the parts, although the cars they fit are now a lot older than they were in '74.
We do early Ford stuff, a bit of Model A all the way through to mid-60s, everything from wheel bearings through to windshield rubbers, upholstery kits, tyres, yeah.
And although reproduction parts are now an option for some models, for many of Ajay's clients, it's still all about the real deal.
They like the new old stock parts over the reproduction stuff, and yeah, when we've got it sitting on the shelf as a new old stock item, they quite enjoy that rather than putting a foreign made product on their car. Yeah, so it's quite exciting watching the clubs come up and go through our second-hand sheds, and someone coming back with a part that they've been looking for years. We get to see lots of projects and get sworn to secrecy quite a few times over stuff that nobody gets to see until it either appears at a car show or in a magazine. People come up here and find that part that finishes it. That side of the business is really neat.
Nowadays, it might be hard to imagine getting too excited about a trip to your local parts store, but all that changes when you add nearly a century to the equation. Here, even the packaging is a history lesson. For an early Ford enthusiast, this place is a treasure trove. But if it's treasure you want, you'll need a treasure hunter.
Very challenging finding new old stock parts. A lot of the replicated stuff is now getting discontinued with the lack of support or the lack of buying power and selling overseas. And we're at the end of the food chain really. So we're sort of trying to find lots and lots of new old stock parts and buy what we can. And it's quite interesting going to all these different big places that time's forgotten, and these little wee towns in America that, like I say, time's forgotten, and it's finally starting to come out of the woodwork.
And not all Brian's American finds are that compact. As you'd expect, he also comes across plenty of nice vehicles that take his fancy too. But apparently you can have too many toys, and the trick here is remembering they're to sell, not keep.
Yeah, just about every car that I buy now I fall in love with, and like everything I look at in the States, I sort of picture finished and then go, that'd be cool, and get it home and work out we've got to keep turning cars over. I have got a handful of cars for myself, so I'm pretty spoiled that side of it, but I get to see, it's like a kid in a toy shop, I get to see so much nowadays. Fall in love with each one, and even if we hang on to them for a few years and then move them on, that's part of it, yeah.
Every week, we're giving our viewers the chance to win a Teng Tools and Maguire's gift pack worth $250. Simply go to themotorhood.com and follow the Teng Tools Muscle Garage link. Plus, by entering our weekly draws, at the end of the series, one lucky viewer will win a Teng Tools 460-piece automotive toolkit, a complete Maguire's car care pack, and a $500 Mount Shop voucher. The total value of this grand prize is almost $5,000. Good luck, everyone. Teng Tools Muscle Garage was proudly brought to you by Teng Tools. Get organised. Mount Shop, undercar specialists. Maguire's, people who love cars love Maguire's. And Need a Car, the easy way to research and buy cars online.